Steven, it's a new year, it's 2022, and I've got a big, fat, juicy wish that it's going to be a year full of fulfillment here on You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. What do you think?
I've got a big old sauce-drenched wish myself, just slapped on my plate here in front of me, and I'm going to dig in to a whole nother year of You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
It's going to be a big year full of winding down our rewatch of Community and moving on to whatever comes next for us, and to be a part of it with us. There's so many ways to show your support.
We've got a big old warm pool here for you. Come on and slip on your skivvies and slide down the ladder and dive in. How can they get in this pool, Zach?
If you put your toe in the water and it feels fine and you want to get waist deep, come join us on Patreon, patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. It's the way to support this show and to help us move it forward as we move into the future. It's also the way to get more of us every week with our live pre-show every week, You Can't Dis a Pre-Show, and all kinds of Patreon exclusive content coming all the time, Steven.
We'd love for you to support us on Patreon, but you can also hang out with us free of charge over on Twitter at You Can't Dis a Pod. We are also on Instagram at Can't Disappoint Podcast, and we're on Facebook and YouTube under the whole name of the show, You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
Also, if you would like to be a part of the show every week, you can email us at can'tdisappointpodcast@gmail.com. To be a part of next week's podcast, write us in your trivia, your favorite funny moment, and your episode MVP for next week's episode of Community, and we'll read it out loud on the show.
If you like what we do here, leave a review wherever you leave reviews about podcasts.
Yeah, maybe like the Sharper Image product review site. Leave us a review there.
There's like a box full of sticky notes at my post office. Write a review and leave it there.
I hope you guys are jumping on board with us and you're ready to traverse 2022 with me and Steven. What do you say? Let's rip our way into another episode of You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
Cannonball!
I'll put like a big splash.
Yeah!
Bad!
I have Changnesia. I'm not a dog.
Professor, we're so sorry. Obviously, Kevin made a mistake.
Or did he?
Why are you or-did-heing him?
I'm just saying, the professor can't get any more tied up, and we can't get any less than an F, so let's just take a beat and think this through.
Okay, this is way better than Die Hard in a Restaurant.
What's that, Zach? If you listen closely, you can hear some jingling bells.
Oh,
That can only
is
mean
that what
one
that
thing,
is?
Zach. It's Christmas time here on You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
I thought maybe you were just like masturbating under the table and you had change in your pocket.
I mean that too, but it's also Christmas.
Happy Christmas, Steven.
Happy Christmas, Ron.
So how are you, buddy? Are you feeling the Christmas spirit? Do you just feel the eggnog flowing through your veins?
I am covered head to toe in red velvet, Zachary. Everywhere
God.
except the dangly bits.
The cake or the fabric?
That's for you to find out.
Oh, wow. Well, happy Christmas, everyone. I'm glad you've joined us. Welcome to yet another week of Yuletide. You Can't Disappoint a Podcast shenanigans. I'm glad
Nice.
everyone's here to hang out with us. I'm Zach, and I didn't come up with anything clever this week. I'm sorry, guys. I failed you.
Disappointing. I'm Steven, and, well, the only reason I've been kissing this pompous Anglo's ass is because I thought I was going to get an F.
That's
Which
good. I'm
relates
glad
to
you
the
tried
show,
it at least
yeah.
harder than I did.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm glad you can make it. This is episode 81 of Community that we're covering, and there's
Wow.
only 110. We're getting so very close to the end of this project and so very close to the end of season 4. It's exciting times, don't you think?
You know, we're on this merry-go-round / roller coaster / stroll down a lazy river full of clam chowder that we call life. We're coming to
What
a
was that
moment
about
in
chowder?
time, Zachary, where I think the sun is on the horizon. And by that I mean we are nearing.
Not really. We still
Season
got
5.
plenty of time.
Well, is there a lot more season 4 left? We're getting close.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, we're almost to season 5,
This
which
is
I'm very
episode
excited
10.
about.
I'm very excited to get to season
And like
5.
we've said, I don't think season 4 has been bad
No.
entertainment. It's not been like low quality thing. There
No,
are so many
no.
things worse than season 4 of Community.
It's a lot harder to look at the way that we've decided to look at this show week to week. It doesn't hold up to multiple viewings so well compared to some of the rest of the show. And episodes, kind of like the one that we'll be talking about pretty shortly, there are a handful of them that are just kind of sloggy and boring. And I'm ready for the zany, quirky adventures from before that don't feel quite so, I don't know, so forced.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Forced.
that's
That's a good way to describe a lot of what happens this season. There were some good
both
starting
on
ideas.
Community and on the podcast. Forced.
Yeah,
It's just a little
forced.
forced at this point. Yeah. Well, let's force it. What do you think? Let's force it. I want to thank the gracious few who decide to float around in this chowder with us on a weekly basis. Those are the $10 and up patrons over at patreon.com/Can't Disappoint Podcast. Those people are Danny M. Lugo, Mary Baker Budisa, Taylor Ace, and Planeswalker Prez. It's a beginning of a new month here at the Can't Disappoint Patreon, so we're excited that people have decided to keep it going for another month.
Oh yeah,
And-
it is February, isn't
yeah.
it?
And it's a good time
Welcome.
to sign up if you haven't yet, because there's so much going on over the Patreon right now. More on a weekly basis than we've ever had going on over there before. Every week we do You Can't Diss a pre-show before we record this show, where Steven and I hang out and chat and play games for a half hour before we head over to record the mothership project that is You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. It's always really fun, and it's always fun when we have patrons hanging out with us while we do it.
Yeah,
I really
it's
like
a
doing the
blast and a
pre-show.
half. I love having the pre-show is a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
And now that we're in February,
Yeah.
we are officially at
A year of
our
the
Patreon's
Patreon.
birthday.
The other day was the year anniversary of our live stream that we did to
Wow,
start
that's
the
crazy.
Patreon. Yeah.
That was so much fun.
So, okay, you get the pre-show every week over there at the Patreon. You also get every week this podcast earlier than anyone else. You get it the same day we record it every week, and just hot off the presses, and isn't that exciting?
Steaming hot.
And, of course, we've got our new project going on over there, a second weekly rewatch podcast that we do that you can only get on Patreon every Saturday. It's Brokeback Bebop, our Cowboy Bebop rewatch podcast. And it's been really fun to start something else and to talk about something else a little bit of a different way. And it's cool to try something new. I'm excited. I enjoy recording it, and I enjoy putting it out there. So go check it out. The first 2 episodes are out there right now as of this episode release, and it comes out every Saturday. So head on over, patreon.com/Can't Disappoint Podcast. And Steven, why don't you do the honors? There's one special little boy who we have to shout out before we can go any further into this week's program. You know him, you love him.
Yeah, we want to, as always, give a shout out to the man who taught us how to tie a various amount of knots for a various amount of reasons. Our naughty Poppy. Communities over on Twitter.
I got it. You didn't have to take that pause. I knew what you were doing. I heard
Yeah.
you. Naughty
Honestly,
with
and
T's
it extra works because like
K's.
naughty is
Yeah,
like Christmas.
I get it. I get
Do you
it.
think they realized that in the writers' room?
I don't know.
They
We'll-
didn't make any jokes
we'll
about
have
it.
to
Thank
ask.
goodness. But yeah, thanks,
you,
Dad,
Papa,
for
for
supporting us and
supporting us, moving
yeah.
community
If
forward.
if you are a community fan that has not heard of Communities over
Mm-hmm.
on Twitter, go give them a follow. You learn so much about the show. It's all the up to date info with the cast, the fun talkings with writers and things
yeah,
like that.
I think he's
so-
got something like that will have already happened when this came out, but all
On
the time
Twitter
talking
Spaces.
to writers, directors, actors, super cool, super impressive.
I don't understand what Twitter Spaces is, but I see it pop up.
It's like a Zoom call where you can't see each other and other people can listen, and any stranger can like request to join.
Wow,
Yeah.
interesting.
Like I saw one once where one of my favorite musicians, Laura Jane Grace, she was just like hopped on Spaces by herself. The first handful of people that requested to join came on and they chatted for a while.
That's awesome.
It was kind of cool.
That's super cool.
Well, what's up with you, buddy, before we get into Community? Is there anything on the table we need to talk about?
Yeah, just some exciting life living. I took
Yeah?
a nice little getaway day with Danny on Sunday. We went to Michigan to a bed and breakfast and had a nice dinner and relaxed a little bit.
Was that a Patreon reward of hers that she's earned?
It is. The tier she's at, she gets a weekend getaway with a member of the cast. She picked me this time. So
Yeah, our trip to our trip to Hershey, Pennsylvania that I had planned would have been awesome, but
Yeah. Next time.
can't win them all.
Yeah, our super busy season at work is starting now, so
It's a good time for a little getaway beforehand.
yeah.
That's awesome. Today, as we're recording, it'll be past when the episode comes out, is me and Lily's 4th anniversary. Look at
Wow.
us. Look at the two of us being all domestic and doing our little things with our little partners. It's cool.
Yeah.
Cool times.
Congratulations.
Being in a relationship with someone you're crazy about, I recommend it. It's kind of nice.
Yeah. We love it. We love.
Yeah. We sure do. And you know what
But
else
no
we love?
love can compare for the love that we share.
For
each
each
other.
other. And for the
For you.
television program Community.
The viewers.
The thing that we're all here to talk about, Community, Season 4, Episode 10. You are right. After this, there's only 3 more episodes of Season 4.
Wow.
And they're all 3 that I'm interested to talk about because we've got the Freaky Friday episode next week.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we've got the superhero origin story of the Greendale 7.
Sure.
And then after that, we've got a messy-ass finale that I'm kind of excited to revisit. But this week is episode 10. We're here to talk about Intro to Knots. It was directed by the great Tristram Shapiro, who I think directed like half of this season and like a quarter of all the episodes of Community. Pretty nuts.
Wow.
And the episode was written by Andy Bobrow, who before this wrote Basic Rocket Science, Mixology Certification, Custody Law and Eastern European Diplomacy, Geography of Global Conflict, Pillows and Blankets, History 101 in this season, and after this he only has one more writing credit. It's in Season 5, Introduction to Teaching, and this episode originally aired on April 18th, 2013. Not Christmas time.
No, they we're not really on it with the timing of the episodes, but that's okay.
We've mentioned that. It's not their fault. It's weird network stuff, but
No,
there
it's
is
their fault.
a joke
I
in
blame
this-
Community.
Yeah. They f***ed it up real bad. There's a joke in the episode. This episode filmed when they first learned that their release was being pushed. So this was the first time that they kind of knew as they were filming the Christmas episode that it probably wasn't going to film during Christmas, or that
Yeah.
it probably wasn't going to be
Air.
released around Christmas. So when Jeff and Annie put up the curtains and Jeff is like, you know what, these curtains will look nice not just at Christmas but any time of the year. Valentine's Day, President's Day. That was like a nod at how they didn't know exactly when the episode
Yeah.
was going to air, which I thought was kind of cute. Let's dive right into it. Let's do some trivia from this week's episode.
Trivia.
You got a flavor of the week somewhere in there in that fridge full of act trivia?
Let me grab a little spoonful here.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, gotta eat this one with a skewering knife. Nice. Get in there.
Well, they do say that it's not the best. It's not really advised to eat act trivia with a spoon because it will burn through the spoon.
Yeah, most metals dissolve right in it.
It's
let's
best
see,
just
this-
to slurp
this week's
it right out
flavor
of
is-
the container.
Is slightly damp rope. I like it. It makes you feel like you're stuck in the bottom of a pirate
Little
ship
musty.
that you thought was a carnival cruise, and so you stowed away trying to hear vacation, da, na, na, na,
Yeah.
na, na, but all you heard was sea shanties.
Yeah.
And now you have a vitamin C deficiency.
Yeah, and
Wet
if you
damp- slightly
eat
damp
an entire
rope.
6-pack of slightly damp rope, you will get scurvy.
Yeah.
No question
It's good to
about
keep
it.
some lemons on hand anyway when eating
Yeah.
Actrivia yogurt, but
Yeah.
especially now.
But they really appreciate being the sponsor of this segment because we can move quickly over all of the bad things about that company and into some trivia about this week's episode of Community. I've got 5 questions.
I have 4 questions, but you kind of already answered one of the questions.
Oh, wow. Do you want to say it first then?
Yeah. What other 2 holidays does Jeff say Annie's decorations
Is it
will work
Valentine's
for?
Day and President's Day?
It
Was
sure
it only
is.
2? I thought there was
Yeah.
more than that. Okay, cool. What
So
color
now I
are
have
the
3 questions.
Yeah, and you totally just botched my entrance. I was so ready
Sorry,
to ask
go
you a
for it.
question. Okay, let me get back into place.
Yeah,
Let me get
I'm
back
sorry
into
for
place. That's okay. You want to know something fed up?
What's up?
My cat straight up scratched my nipple yesterday.
Oh my, like in like a kinky way?
No,
Or in like
but
a
like
mean
my
way?
areola has a significant cat scratch on it, like a long one. And
Nice.
it hurts pretty bad.
That's like handsome. That's like rugged.
Yeah, my first question for you, what color are the two pillows Annie puts on Jeff's chair?
Green
Chairs
and
in the beginning of the episode.
like purple?
Yes,
Nice.
that's correct.
Wowza.
All right, go ahead.
I really like that shade of green. It's a nice like chartreuse
Sure.
kind of she used. I'm into that.
Sure.
What did Troy try to get Abed?
What did Troy try to get Abed? I don't know. Something Die Hard related.
He tried to get him taking off shoes, but wasn't sure how to wrap it.
I didn't even catch that line. That's funny.
Yeah.
What movie didn't do the trick for Pierce's sensitivity training?
Ooh, Invictus,
I don't know
starring
that movie.
Morgan Freeman as
about racism?
Nelson Mandela,
Oh, okay.
and Matt Damon as the head of the Springboks, South Africa's international rugby team.
Interesting. Oh, I guess I do remember it being a sports movie.
Yeah, I liked it. I also really liked Nelson Mandela. So
Sure.
you know. What does Jeff serve to the professor?
The alcohol?
Mm-hmm.
McClellan 18?
You are so
Neat.
close. I'm going to give it to you. It's Macallan 18. Neat.
Are you sure? Because do they say a non...
No, they say Macallan.
Well, I was just going to say,
they've
do they
used
say
Macallan
like
before in the show.
a non copyrighted name?
No, I think they say Macallan.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. I was
We'll
close.
double check.
Okay.
I give that to you.
We
though.
won't. You know, we never do. We never
as a
have.
non-Scotch drinker.
81 times
especially.
we've said we'll check during the episode, and none of those times have we.
Sure. I always check. I just don't tell you.
Oh, wow. You can't
Yeah.
keep things like that from me.
Well, you know, Zach, I
We're in
try
this
and
together.
tell you, and then you say, "Not now." Your mother and I are talking, and
And
there's
they're
never.
both me.
Yeah.
Is
It's
it
just
my
you and a
turn?
mirror.
Okay. What are the tapas served at the party? They're both
Ooh.
offered
Bacon
to the
wrapped
professor.
asparagus and mangoes and were the mangoes with ham?
Yes. Are you sure it was bacon? For whatever reason, I thought it was salmon.
Oh wow!
It looked
That'd be
like bacon
fancy.
and asparagus, but I thought they said that.
They might have
also
said
forget
salmon,
to check
yeah.
that one. Yeah.
What is the professor's yearly Christmas tradition?
So I don't know. Something with his daughter.
No.
Was it at the end
He
when he's being all
says-
sad?
Yeah, he's like, "You guys saved me from my yearly Christmas tradition of plum pudding, roasted goose, and updating my suicide note." To which
Oh,
then
yeah.
Kevin laughs.
Yeah, that was a weird moment. Roasted goose, though, I'd try that out for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, next one for you. What artist did Jeff blow off his section of the paper to go see? If you don't know, this tells me that you don't know who this person is, and you should.
I'm just trying to remember who he said.
But if you knew who it was, you wouldn't have to remember. You would remember that, oh, they mentioned this person. Which tells me that you don't know who this person is, and you should. He's great. And weird.
Tom Waits.
Yeah. Do you know who Tom Waits is?
Yeah.
He's got this really like growly voice, and his music's
weird.
all really weird.
Don't you dare assume I don't know who Tom
Well,
Waits
that's
is.
what
I have a
he-
Tom Waits song in my Rumba playlist that I use for work.
What song?
Temptation, I think.
Okay. He's in Licorice Pizza.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he does some acting. He's great. I love
Nice.
Tom Waits. Legend. That was my question. It's your turn.
I don't have any more.
Okay, I've got one more for you. How does Cornwallis describe 3 of the study group members who might untie him? He's like, you are
Yeah.
this, you are this, and you are this.
Shirley is the like overworked single mother or something.
None of those words were right, but the idea
Yeah,
of
sentiment.
it was...
The type A something was Annie,
Okay.
and Abed's was really mean, and I really didn't like this part. But he called him like socially inept Muslim or something like that.
Wow,
and talked about
socially
him
inept.
having
That's what you're projecting on this, huh?
socially something. I don't know.
No, they were type A Lolita. Do you know Lolita? It's a
I-
book and movie
yeah.
about like a old man and a young girl or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But people celebrate it for some reason, so maybe there's something
There's a
else
Lana
to
Del
it.
Rey
That's all I
song
know
with that
about it.
title that I like.
Put Upon Housewife
Put Upon Housewife. That's what it
and
was.
Odd Emotionless Muslim.
Yeah. And then he goes on to keep saying really rude things about Abed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
All right, well, let's move on from that. That's all
I
the
didn't
questions.
like that.
Let's see what people wrote into us, because we always do like that when people write us in emails.
Ooh, yeah. First email. Knots. It's from our proud, naughty by nature Papa himself. Communities on Twitter. Hi, guys.
Naughty nature and nurture.
Heyo. Intro to Knots originally had Pierce, but due to Chevy's tantrum on the previous week,
Yep.
was replaced by Ken at the last minute, and it really worked better than expected.
I think it does. Honestly, there are a couple of things about what Chang does in this episode that moves the story along with the tying
Yeah.
up of it all that I think makes
Ha,
more
ha, ha, ha.
sense with the character that is supposed to be like brain dead right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be
Did you do that
stupider
on
if it was
purpose?
Pierce. Say what?
Did you do that on purpose?
What
Say
did
the
I say?
tying up of it all?
I just heard you go ha 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 ha.
Because you
Well,
said the tying up of it all.
because I was describing the part of the episode where they tie him up. It wasn't a play on words. It was just
oh,
me
I thought you
talking
meant
about
like
what
the
happens.
tying up of like the episode tying up as well as him literally tying up.
Like no, but what I'm saying is like because Chang being the one that ties up Cornwallis or doesn't and gets it blamed on him, he's clueless anyway, so he's gonna be like, yeah, I guess I did this. Whereas Pierce, if it was him doing it, it'd be like, well, why doesn't he say that he did it himself or something?
Yeah, exactly. They originally planned to shoot scenes in single continuous shots, but for a show like Community, it became too difficult. So large parts of the episode have it and others don't. Also, McDowell is wearing those glasses because he just had some type of eye surgery. Have a great one, guys.
I don't mind the
Community's
glasses though. I think they were a nice touch. He has
They
these
worked.
like darkened sunglasses.
What does Troy's gift to Abed say? Yippee-ki-yay.
Mother Christmas?
Is it Father Christmas?
Father? Well, because in the line in Die Hard is Yippee-ki-yay,
Don't
motherfucker.
don't quote Die Hard to me like
I've
I
never
haven't
seen
seen
it.
all
I've never
like
seen any
5
of Die
Die Hard
Hard.
movies.
Never seen it. But it
Wow,
sure does
you-
get referenced in all of the sitcoms that I watch.
Yeah, you should watch Die Hard.
All right.
Yeah, Die Hard's great.
But
Who
just
did
the
Jeff
first
go to
one, or
listen
should
to
I watch
instead of
the
doing his-
sequels?
Watch all of them.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Even the one with Justin Long.
Okay.
Live Free or Die Hard.
That sounds fun. I like Justin Long.
I do too. Then there's one more after that where he's like even older.
Justin
Bruce
Long.
Willis, not Justin Long. Although Bruce Willis has looked the same since like the 90s.
There's
He's now
this
just
new
starting to look a little older.
Bruce Willis movie that's like a space sci-fi kind of thing, and apparently it's really bad, and he like really phones in what he's doing. Add him. I don't know where it was that we talked about it, but add him to the list of action stars that are basically doing everything sitting down nowadays.
But that's like crazy because I love just about, I'll say I like pretty much every Bruce Willis movie I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I'm a pretty
but
big Bruce Willis fan.
Here lately, he's been doing like several movies a year that you
Oh.
don't hear of, and there's a reason why.
Yeah. I love the Red movies. Those are good.
Okay, I haven't seen it. I don't know if I've ever seen a movie that stars Bruce Willis.
Wow, you are really
I
missing
haven't
out,
even
Chief.
seen like The Sixth Sense or anything.
Never seen Fifth Element?
No, I don't.
Zachary!
I'm not even familiar with that. I don't think.
Fifth Element, him, Mila Djokovic, Chris Tucker is really funny in it.
Okay.
It's like
Let's move on.
futuristic.
Well, let's just. What was the question that you started? before
Sorry,
we
I
went on
just
a
can't
Willis
get over
thing?
you've never seen a Bruce Willis movie.
Sorry.
Wow.
I saw him on Friends. Does that count?
Yeah, he's great on Friends. Where does Pierce buy all of his papers?
I don't know. A lot of that for me this week. I don't know.
Dunder Mifflin? I don't know. Okay, to Abed, yippee-ki-yay, Father Christmas.
It was
Then-
Father Christmas.
Then Tom Waits, and then Neil.
Wait, I don't
is
think
where-
you asked the Tom Waits one.
I did,
think
you just didn't
talked
actually
over it,
listen to me
But I don't
saying
think
it,
we
Zach.
answered it or anything
I did. I both read it and answered it.
while I was somewhere totally different.
Yes.
Okay,
That's
great.
okay, Zach.
That's okay.
It's all right. The people
Tom
here
Waits.
hear what I say.
I would have known it if I was listening. so let
Where
the
does
record
Pierce
show.
buy all of his papers from Neil?
Oh yeah, I remember that line.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff did the math on how the paper would end up, and he knew that
Yeah.
Pierce would. Yeah, I was thinking like newspapers.
Yeah, I
From
thought
the
he
wording
meant
of the
like
question.
just like paper. Thanks, Dad. Our next email is from Taylor, good old Tim Tam.
As good as it gets. That Tim
He
Tam.
says,
You
"Howdy,
ever had a
Steven."
Tim Tam? Do you know what Tim Tam is?
No.
It's a cookie, like a chocolate-covered cookie kind of thing. I think it's like a Canadian or British like treat.
Good for
Tim Tams.
him.
There's a bunch of different kinds of them. Yeah, Tim Tam. That's
Oh,
why I
good for
said it the
you,
first
Tim
time.
Tam.
Timmy Tam.
Howdy, Steven. Good tidings, Zach. I am a blast at holiday parties. I like it.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Tim Tam seems like a fun guy.
Tim Tam does seem like a fun guy.
Yeah.
It's frozen over in Texas this week, so here's to hoping for safe roads and warm fireplaces.
For sure. It's a snowtastrophe. I mean, it's Thursday when we record. I don't know what it'll be like on Monday when this comes out, but there sure is a lot of snow outside.
Yeah. Trivia. What movie didn't do the trick for Pierce's sensitivity training?
Invictus.
Invictus. And then what cheese goes well with Macallan Neat?
Shut up, Steven. I heard the way you said Macallan. It's Monterey Jack, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I haven't tried that combo. I should.
Shut the f*** up. I hate you so much.
I should give that
Do you have
combination.
any Monterey Jack to pair with this?
Well, and I'm a slob because I only have Macallan 12, not 18. Ooh.
And they're like, sir, this is a TGI Fridays. We have the Monterey Jack cheese, but we don't have the scotch.
Funny moments. Kevin, bad. I have Changnesia. I'm not a dog. And then
Again,
Anne
I'm not a
Shirley,
dog.
who I didn't mention earlier because she intimidates you sexually. And then I know you're in there. I can smell you.
Meh.
And then I gotta go drop a deuce. that did
Yeah.
make me laugh. That was good. This isn't a great episode, but I like the parts that I like a lot. That's fair. I love Annie decorating Jeff's apartment so much. Jeff is smiling at her the entire scene. His eyes don't leave hers for a second, and his guard is completely down.
Look, I don't read into stuff like this that much. What I will say, the Jeff and Annie stuff in the beginning was kind of cute, not annoying like it was in the
Yeah.
Inspector Spacetime episode, and it didn't bog down the whole episode. They let Annie have a different reason for doing the stuff that she's doing
Sure.
in this episode, which is great. I hate when she just exists in an episode to make googly eyes at Jeff. I don't mind if she makes googly eyes at Jeff, but that's not who she is this week.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
yeah, I'll give you that one, Tammy.
He acts tough and annoyed, but enjoys every second of it. Also,
Yeah,
when
I really like
Cornwallis
Jeff's
says,
delivery. Sorry, I like Jeff's delivery when Annie's like, we can try these curtains for a few nights, and you can take them down if you want. And he's like, yeah, let's take them down. But he says it with a smile, and it's cute.
Yeah.
It is cute.
Also, when Cornwallis says there's bound to be some romantic entanglements, Jeff and Annie look at each other all cute. I did notice that one. Gosh, is how he ends it. Pierce's absence is distracting. Kevin is annoying. Cornwallis is insufferable. Abed is fun with his Die Hard bit. I don't care about the grade on the paper at all, and the stakes are just low. I didn't mind Kevin this episode,
No, I don't.
but
either.
I am inclined to agree with some other parts. Edit, I forgot about the Darkest Timeline tease. I actually don't mind that plot. It's an interesting, bizarro angle.
I have an issue with it, but not so much what they do in this episode. It's more what
Yeah.
they're gonna do in a couple episodes. But we'll talk about that when we get to the
Yeah.
tag.
MVP is probably Jeff. Good speeches, snappy dialogue, nice interactions with the gang. Annie does a great job too. Her Shirley valedictorian rivalry is pretty good for this episode and next. I think next week is the Troy Abed body swap, Britta breakup. I despise that plot line. At least we get a bunch
Aw.
of Leonard in the B plot.
I really like that episode.
Yeah, I remember liking it, but I don't remember exactly all the deets. Shorter email this week, solidly in the bottom third of community episodes. Oh well, season 4 is almost over. Getting that much closer to my personal favorite season, season 6. Keep
Hot
it up,
take,
y'all.
Timmy
See you
Man.
next week. Side note, why does 6'4" Jeff Winger own a stepladder if not for tiny Annie Edison? Huh? Checkmate, liberals. Probably to decorate the tree, but still.
And also, there's no thought into it. It's just the set designers being like, there has to be something so Allison Brie can reach. They don't think like but Jeff is 6'4", which means, you know what I mean? I think sometimes
You're wrong, Zach. They knew what they were
you
doing.
nerds think a little too deep. I'm just kidding. The whole reason we do this is to read way too deep into every little bit of it.
Thanks, Tim Tam.
Thanks, Tammy.
We've got one more email.
Okay.
This one's from Danny M.
First
Lugo.
time writing in. Do we know this person? I think, is she new?
I know. Merry Christmas, Zach and Steven.
Thanks,
I fully
it's
forgot about this
February.
episode, and I've seen it at least twice this past year, so I guess I don't care that much about it.
That's
Funniest
fair.
moment to me was the dean storming out of the room but touching Jeff's abs on the way out. Sorry for the repeats in this quick round of trivia. In what order did the study group arrive to Jeff's place?
Oh, shoot. Well,
Annie, Shirley,
Abed.
Abed,
Before
then
Troy
Troy,
and
and Britta. No, ooh.
And also, where does Kevin fit in?
He came last.
Before Cornwallis?
Yeah.
Okay. Were Troy and Britta last, or was Abed last before Chen?
I feel like Abed came after them.
Okay.
Because he has all the bags of popcorn and is like.
Yeah, okay.
What appetizers did Shirley and Annie bring out?
Well, either salmon or bacon wrapped asparagus and
And
mango with ham.
Which sounds yummy. According to Chang, how do you tie a knot?
All I know is at the end he's like, and the kids go marching down the well or something like that.
Yeah, he
I
says
don't
something about like a
know.
bunny
Put
ear.
a thing on a thing, and yeah.
Yeah. What kind of pudding did the professor say it was his yearly Christmas
Plum
tradition?
pudding.
Plum pudding. Big hugs, Danny. Thanks for writing in, Danny. Hope
Thank
you
you very
enjoyed your
much.
Patreon reward of a weekend getaway.
Yeah, if you put the right money into the show, you get to go home with Steven.
Yeah. I'm not cheap, but I'm not that expensive either.
Yeah.
So
There's a price to it, but you'd be surprised how low it is. We're just lonely guys.
we just love hugs.
And is that it? Do we have any
That's
more
it.
emails?
That's what we've got.
Well, thanks for everyone writing in. Next week, we're talking about, what's that episode called off the top of my head? Basic Human Anatomy. So if you want to write in your trivia, your favorite funny moment, and your episode MVP to can'tdisappointpodcast@gmail.com, we'll be talking about that one next week. Get it sent in by Thursday, everybody.
it.
All right, Steven, what's next? It's time to see what you remember about this episode. We've watched
Is this before
episode.
favorite funny moments?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it always has been. I think you're deflecting.
I never remember.
Well, it's time to see how you remember this episode because we've watched it more than just this time since
It's
starting this
true.
podcast. You should know it relatively well.
Well, but did that make me pay less attention to it because I had seen it recently?
It certainly did me. A
Yeah.
little. I don't know, but on the other hand, the episode is a bottle episode that really plays like a one-act play where like everything's happening in front of you. So it's not like there are a ton of threads to follow.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Do you think you're ready?
I would love to get a better grade than the study group did on their paper.
Well, spoiler alert, head over to the Patreon for Brokeback Bebop where I recap things in 20
You did a really
seconds
good
or
job
less.
on your second one.
The second one, I got an A. Let's see
Yeah.
if you could do better than Papa over here, okay?
I don't remember communities on Twitter doing a recap of an episode, but we absolutely should make them
I
do
can
that
also
sometime.
be daddy. There can be several. I can be daddy.
I call you exclusively Mommy.
All right,
Aunt
everybody,
Janice
it's time to find out.
or
Did
Grandma
Steven
Roo.
watch the episode?
Did Steven
this
watch
week?
the episode this week?
Tried to throw a curveball.
Tried to wait a second.
All right,
Draw
you
it
got
up.
20 seconds. Are you ready?
I am.
3, 2, 1, go.
Everyone in the study group except for Pierce is going over to Jess for the Christmas party. Surprise Kevin's there. Surprise Annie invited the teacher because they got an F on their test. Psych, she was lying. They got a C- because Jeff blew off his part. Everyone else did great. Cornwallis is there. Cheng ties him up, but he was really fake tied up the whole time because Cheng can't tie a knot. Cornwallis is sad and misses his daughter, but she was not really around in the first place.
Stop. You didn't get anything about him like prying into the study group. That I feel like that's kind of the whole thing, really, of the episode is him like playing mind games on them to try to get them to turn on one another and stuff. The other thing I noticed: did Annie invite Cornwallis? I thought Jeff did.
No, why would Jeff invite him?
To make Annie happy? I don't know.
No.
It was for
you
sure
clown.
Annie. Oh, it was for sure Annie. Well, sorry. You still did okay, not great, but it's not a B-. I think it is a B. Because you
A
didn't
B?
really
Thank
get
you.
any. I would have liked a lot more about
Sure.
the emotional stakes of this.
Sure, I wanted to get the
this
big
fully
plot
loaded
points
episode.
before I dove into the
the
Grinch. The
You
id.
remember
What's
that?
the emotional one?
What?
The id, the ego, and the
Oh, I don't know.
Yzma.
The id, the ego, and the Yzma. That's it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next let's move right into those favorite funny moments. I didn't have a bunch. It's not a super funny episode. I wrote down a couple little things.
Yeah.
Troy. I wrote this down. I don't even remember what it is. Oh, they're like trying to figure out who tied up Cornwallis, and Troy's like, "Is it me?" Chang saying "doink" as he hands off presents. He's like, "Doink, doink."
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. And Troy's line about heat. Like there'd be heat, but I'm not.
I don't know,
nervous,
heat?
so
I'd
there's
be-
no
I'd be-
heat.
Rambling. Oh, he. Yeah, that was funny.
That's right.
I wrote down 2 Troy lines when he's like, and he's like, I have good news and bad news, and he's like, black licorice. That was funny. When Britta's like talking to him, and he's like, I'm sorry, I've just seen an old friend, and then leaves to go give Abed his present. And then I thought it was funny when the dean was like, if you're gonna not invite me to your Christmas party, at least do it when I'm at spin class. That made me really laugh. And him leaving and touching the abs made me laugh really hard too.
But they're all kind of like little moments. There isn't a huge laugh in the episode.
No.
And with that, let's dive in. Steven, we've watched this episode together before. Did we both put it as our least favorite Christmas
Yes.
episode? And that's kind of unfair because this versus the other episodes is only sort of a Christmas episode. All
Yeah.
of the other Christmas episodes are very much like a Christmas special. This one is more just an episode that happens to take place around Christmas time.
Yeah, it does this show a disservice to like have this be a holiday themed episode. I get that it's kind of the central point of why they're all together, but the other ones are also grand. Even the season 1, which is, you know,
A little
there's like
lower
a fight,
level,
but there's
but
like
it's very much a Christmas episode.
yeah, Anthony Michael
It's
Hall's
like about
there.
Christmas and what Christmas means to all the different characters.
Yeah, and that episode's really funny, you know.
Mm-hmm.
In season 2, you get Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas, which is a crazy like concept to do a whole
Mm-hmm.
claymation episode, you know. And then season 3 of the Glee one, which is so funny
Mm-hmm.
and like is big musical numbers throughout it. And this one, they're in Jeff's apartment, and nothing really happens. That's
I feel
consequential
like-
to the series.
When we watched the episode alongside other holiday episodes, we watched it expecting it to have that season 4 stink on it, and we were at least I feel like I remember being pleasantly surprised by it when we were expecting
Yeah.
season 4 to be something different than what it actually is. However, watching it just now in direct relation to season 4, this probably sits pretty close to the bottom of what we've watched so far.
Wow.
Like History 101 and the Whale episode and the German episode are pretty.
And Chaynisha
Bad.
episode. It's not great either.
I think I'd rather watch that one before this one.
wow.
I think I would.
yeah.
I don't know what it is. I think it's because. Okay, so there's the whole conceit that the episode is not only a bottle episode, but at first it's happening in real time, and it's at first all in one shot, but they don't hold on to that very long. I feel like the style, although they pull off, it doesn't feel very Community. It feels like I'm watching like a kind of badly written like Gilmore Girls episode, the way that the dialogue shoots around. It's not part of what makes the humor of the characters bumping off each other so good is the fast-paced editing of it. But since this episode kind of is like a play, it's a little bit slower. The dialogue's good, the characters are good, but it's just a little slow and boring.
Yeah.
And I don't know, coming right off the Puppet episode, that was supposed to have this big emotional thing that kind of fell flat onto the ground. This one's at least better than that, but it kind of feels like it's happening again right after the last episode. Like another big, can the study group get past this emotional upheaval?
Yeah.
And yes, they can. The
Yeah,
end.
I just didn't feel the stakes at any point in this.
Let's dive into it. The first section of the episode not even all the way through to the theme song, but a lot of this opening bit is done in one shot. How do you feel about that? Is it something that you noticed?
I don't think it goes on long enough, or that there's
It does
enough
for a
movement.
while, though. You'll have to watch it here. Because
Well, if I could finish my sentence.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
There's not enough movement for it to really matter. Like, it's not as impressive because they're just going on two corners, maybe three, of a room that's 2 rooms and technically has like 8 to 9 walls that are available, and they only use 2 or 3 of them, then it makes it a lot less exciting.
Been interesting to see the version of this episode where they do follow through with that, and we get to see the whole episode like that, like from them going to the bedroom to talk about Cornwallis to coming back. If that was all one shot, and if it all happened like that.
Exactly. Well, because I love when movies and shows do that, and I think it's really impressive how they capture movement and how they deal with like the height and getting through small spaces while still keeping that illusion is really impressive. But because this is such a small scale way of doing it comparatively to a lot of the movies that do that really, really well, it doesn't really do anything or add anything to the episode for me because they didn't follow through.
My first and probably biggest issue with this episode is for 2 weeks in a row, I feel like this is the type of thing that would have been better with the involvement of Dan Harmon, because they had this idea to do the whole episode in one continuous shot, or like, there are filmmaking
Make it
tricks
look like
to
that, yeah.
there are a movie 1912 that came out a year or two ago was a war film that all took place in real time and looked as if the whole movie was done in one shot. Stuff like that can be really, really impressive. And on set, they very quickly realized that was going to be hard for everyone. It was going to be hard to frame, very hard to perform for the actors, hard to do takes when mess ups happen. It just wasn't going to work. I feel like with Dan Harmon on the set, he would have been like, well, then I guess the set's just going to be miserable this week because that's what we're doing this week.
Totally.
And that's kind of the crux of like, was season 4 the change behind the scenes a good thing or not? Because I'm sure it's better on the set for the people to be like, hey, we're going to make things a little easier on you guys this week. But it's undoubtedly better for the show when you've got someone like Dan Harmon who's like, no, this is what it's supposed to be, and it's only going to work if we do it exactly like this. And I don't know that this episode would have been saved if they were able to keep that thing going, but it would have been at least a little more interesting, I think.
Absolutely. It would have been cool.
So yeah, let's talk about this. I remember Communities said last week that this was a good Jeff and Annie episode, and I was like, is it? Because I don't think it really is much of one.
No, there's like
They're
a
kind
couple
of
little
teamed
things,
up. But it's mostly this just one scene in the beginning.
Well, and I think that it's fueled a lot by the fact that evil Jeff and evil Annie make out, and I think that a lot of people connect that to the real world Jeff and Annie,
Interesting.
which
See,
is
I
why
don't
it's
at
such
all.
a Jeff Annie episode. Yeah.
Interesting. So Annie shows up to Jeff's house, the first person, and she shows up with a bunch of things to decorate Jeff's apartment with to make it look a little more lively. You've got to give Alison Brie some credit because this is that one-shot scene, and she has to remember all of these lines, remember which props she has to put up to decorate the thing. She has to like set dress and act at the same time. Not that Joel doesn't have to as well, but Annie's really running the scene, and I think Alison does a great job.
I agree.
And I do see a little bit that Jeff is doing the non-committal but smiling at Annie thing. It is kind of cute, but I just don't see this as an episode that focuses on that hardly at all, any more than any other episode where they kind of smile at each other.
Yeah.
I like the runner here now that as everyone shows up to this party that was supposed to not have gifts, of course everyone brought gifts except for Jeff, which just makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So let's see who shows up. Shirley shows up first. Is that what we said? Is it?
That's what I said. I don't know about you, Chief.
You know I don't listen.
I know.
Then
Britta, I
and
forgot.
Troy
Yeah, Britta and Troy.
are
Cool.
before Abed. It happens really fast, so I didn't think of it that much. This episode doesn't forget that Troy and Britta are together.
No,
the
they
last
remember.
Couple have. But next week is the breakup episode. And I still, man, as this relationship, as this chapter of the show comes to a close, I feel like I look at it as one of Community's biggest missed opportunities.
Yeah.
They never tried to do this with the characters. They never tried to make any of them in like a consistent relationship. And they didn't have to make the show about it all of a sudden, but they just forgot about it. And then it was like the dean being next door to Jeff. They forgot about it. Then something comes up where they have to address it, so they do. And then they get rid of it pretty much as soon as they can.
Yeah.
And that makes me sad because they have a lot of chemistry together. Even just walking into a room together, you're like, that's a couple.
Yeah. It sucks because I really did enjoy most of the stuff that they did with the two of them in the season. They just didn't do enough of it.
Chang even shows up before Abed.
Wow.
And I like Kevin in this episode. I think it works that he's here. If you know what's going on behind the scenes, it's pretty clear that he's just showing up because someone had to say Chevy's lines because he can't be on the set with everybody anymore. But I think it works really well with Kevin. Like I said, in the episode, the Changnesia episode where they take Changnesia so seriously, I like it a lot better when he's just there to be an idiot and everyone's kind of like, Chang's an idiot.
Yeah.
There's no like real belief going on here, I don't think. Then Abed shows up last. I feel like we get kind of that sleepy season 4 Abed this week.
I like Abed this week.
Yeah?
Yeah. I enjoyed him. He's not, but he was in the contention for my MVP.
Abed's Christmas gift for everyone, is it popcorn in bags?
Yeah.
I think that's really, really cute. The little Ziploc baggies of popcorn that he made, just like how he brings garbage dip to. It's a very Abed gift, and it's very thoughtful in like a Abed put this together kind of way. They comment that Pierce is here. They're like, everybody's here except for Pierce. They make one line about Pierce being in sensitivity training, and everyone's like, all right, well, now we can start the show.
Yeah.
And what's going on here? They've already broken the one-shot thing. It didn't last very long. Pretty much as soon as everybody was inside. Or even before that. I kind of lost track of when it stopped.
I think it stopped after everyone got there.
This is when Annie brings up that they're failing a history paper, which is a big deal because why? Annie's
that's
gonna
funny. In the
What?
subtitles here, it spells Kendra's name with a K, but on Hulu, they put Kendra with a Q.
And I think it's clearly supposed to be because
Yeah.
they're just making little references to the show. It's definitely got to be Quindra. There's no doubt about it. Why are they upset about the history paper? Annie was trying to be valedictorian, and
Yeah.
Jeff is trying to graduate early. Does
Well,
anybody
I don't
else
think
really
they don't
care?
know that, though.
But he mentions it.
Oh, does he? I need that paper to graduate.
Like subtly. I think there's
Yeah.
a later on episode where it becomes a bigger deal, but he does say it, where he's like, this is going to screw up
Well, I forgot
my
because he said
early
it in the
graduation.
first episode in History 101.
Yeah, that was the conflict of the whole
Yeah.
first episode. that he wants to
Yeah, they're
graduate
upset
early.
because they failed this big paper, and Annie's like, I needed that, and Jeff's like, I needed that to graduate.
I
He does
don't
say
like
cost me my early graduation.
the whole how they make a whole thing out of it being Jeff is the one who tanked the paper. I don't
Yeah.
like that first Jeff gets all up in arms and then lets it slip pretty soon after that he was the. Why does he?
Yeah,
get so
he
up
should have
in
kept
arms?
that up for longer. And he tells Britta right away.
Like instantly. And that's the bad news when Annie says she has good and bad news. The good news is that she invited the professor. You're right, it was Annie. Of course it was Annie. They're inviting Cornwallis, this creepy old professor of their history class that we've learned previously. Annie let him rub her feet for answers. We learned that last week. And also in the first episode, we learned that he used to work at, was it Cambridge?
Oxford.
Oxford, and that he had some stuff with co-eds over there. So it's interesting to bring him into this. This is the first time we've seen Cornwallis since his first episode. Is that true? Or has he
We
shown up
maybe
more
have
than
seen
that?
him one other time.
And now everyone's just kind of waiting for him to show up. And Abed does have a couple of good meta lines in this episode here where he's like, let's all just sit here and wait for him to show up because it's the only plot point we need to get to next. And then he knocks on the door instantly. Let's talk about Cornwallis. Malcolm McDowell is one of the most iconic actors of all time. He's in this episode, in this season, as their professor. He features really heavily in this one. What do you think about him? What do you think about the character?
I like Malcolm McDowell. I think he's a great actor, and I like seeing him in things. I think that I don't particularly like Cornwallis, but I don't think you're supposed to.
Is that why the episode's kind of boring? Because we don't like Cornwallis. He's not very chaotic, and so much of it is focused on him.
I think possibly. I think that's part of it. I think that his character in the show is one that works in shorter spurts, but if you have a whole episode, the shtick kind of gets old a little bit.
Well, it's almost like it's not that his shtick gets old. It's that the fact that there really isn't any shtick to this character becomes very clear. There's not really anything to him. Mm-hmm. One thing I do kind of like about this episode is this is the most we've ever done with one of the, like, this season's guest teacher or whatever. We never had this with Michael K. Williams. It is kind of nice to see that the show does remember that these characters, like, fill up the world. I do kind of like that we get to spend more time with them than we do with the professors. I think Malcolm McDowell, because of course he's Malcolm McDowell, does a decent enough job.
Yeah.
But again, instantly, I don't care about the stakes that they've set up for this episode. I don't care if they're going to pass a paper or not.
Yeah.
I don't believe that all of them care if they're going to pass this paper or not. The focus of the episode should have been that they tie up the guy and it looks as if they kidnapped him, more than at the root of it, it's about the paper more than anything.
Yeah. Oh, they did like a one-shot thing there.
There are a couple of them, but it's weird because they're disjointed from everything else.
Yeah.
What happened that made Troy walk away from Britta a second
She
ago?
was
Going
saying
on
that
and
she
on
thought
about the
that
paper.
she was the reason the paper got the lower grade because he could tell that it was written by a strong, independent woman.
Oh, yeah, sure. And then Troy says, I've just seen an old friend, and goes over to give
Yes,
Abed
excuse me,
his Christmas
but I've just
present
seen an old
early.
friend.
He gives him a tattered, bloodied white wife beater to get the Die Hard thing going for Abed, who's really on a Die Hard kick this week.
Great
It's
Christmas
cool.
movie.
It's a little moment. Well, let me say, it's a nice moment when Abed says, "You're getting really good at Christmas, Troy." And then for whatever reason, both of their faces go blank. They smile and they both just walk off awkwardly together.
Yeah.
It's like the scene is over, smile, walk over. That was really weird. That moment
Yeah.
stood out to me every time because it's like their faces just die.
It is weird. It's like, okay, guys, move out of the way so we can continue this shot.
And then when the camera keeps going and follows over to Jeff and Cornwallis talking, it doesn't feel like a fluid real-time thing. It feels like Troy and Abed stop, and then Cornwallis and Jeff go from stop into go mode. It's like you can see them begin the scene.
Yeah.
It's a little weird. I do like the way Cornwallis delivers his line when Jeff offers him a fancy drink when he's like, I figured you in America, we'd mix it with cherry pop and Monterey Jack cheese. I thought the way that he delivered that was kind of funny.
Yeah. Oh, melon slices.
Melon slices with ham. And you know what? Melon slices is what I wrote down in my trivia question. But
Really?
then you
Okay.
said mango, and I already kind of second-guessed myself. I was like,
Wow.
he's got to be
Stick
right.
with your gut
should've.
sometimes.
But let's see about the other one.
It was wrapped in salmon.
I was right about both of them.
Yeah, good job.
I didn't
buddy.
get many of the trivia
You got your
questions
own
right,
question
but I
right.
did write my own down correctly. And that's not nothing. There's a lot of conversation in this episode that I don't feel anything that I have to say
Yeah,
about.
basically Jeff is trying to butter up the professor. The professor's
Yeah.
hitting on Annie.
But nothing funny or exciting is really happening.
No. He tells Britta to go jiggle something. Also, is Britta about to drink red wine with orange juice?
Yeah, she has red wine in a juice box. What's that about?
Yeah, I can't say I'm familiar with that one. Oh, is the juice box for Troy? No, Troy's drink.
That's cute. It might be.
If that's the case, that's really funny. Every time
That's a
I watched
nice
this
little
episode, I was
detail.
like, oh, she's going to mix those two. But now that I'm thinking, maybe it's for Troy.
Maybe
That's
it is
sweet.
for Troy. And it's not that Troy doesn't or couldn't drink. He might have just been like, are there any juice boxes? I'll take a
Yeah.
juice box. This is where Jeff very quickly gives up the information that he's the one that tanked the test. And I don't even care about that, like that everybody's going to get mad at Jeff.
No,
'cause
and nobody got mad at Jeff
does.
for
Nobody
one
cares.
singular moment. Other
Nobody.
than
This whole episode is like, in a little bit, the professor just trying to get them mad at each other, and they never really do get mad at each other.
No.
Maybe it would be a little bit better if they did, but I don't know.
the only actual conflict that takes place is Annie and Shirley a
Yeah.
little bit.
I like how Jeff runs through his math of why he was allowed to flunk his part to go see Tom Waits. I thought that was a clever bit of writing about, Pierce is going to buy his off Neil. Annie and Shirley will try hard. Britta will do okay. Mm-hmm. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. I do think it's funny when Chang is trying to do a card trick and he's like, is this a card? And he said, no, it isn't Queen of Hearts. He's like, no, I'm asking, is this a card?
Is this a card? Yeah, it's funny, but is it that funny? I just feel like, I definitely feel like the concept for this episode was harder for them to write than they expected, because they have to come up with all of these party conversations and quirks and jokes before anything really happens in the episode, and none of it means anything, and none of it is particularly entertaining or funny. You're just waiting for the big thing to happen, and then when it does, the episode still keeps up the same pace, so I'm still just as bored.
Yeah, we do finally get the reveal that they didn't actually fail. They got a C-, because the professor says that he can tell that Jeff is brown nosing and he's like, I get it's because I gave you a C-, and then which Annie had lied and told them they failed. Why would she do that?
Yeah. Something I like.
I'd be pissed too though if I were one of the study group and Annie's like, we got an F on this test, we have to work to fix this, and we really did not get an F. I'd be pretty pissed.
Because Jeff had the math right. It was a C-. Mm-hmm. Some little bit of acting I noticed from Malcolm McDowell that I liked here. This is a continuous shot where Annie and Cornwallis are talking. Jeff comes up to give Cornwallis a drink and to take Annie away, and then they keep talking. When Jeff hands Cornwallis the drink, he doesn't have any more lines, and Malcolm McDowell tries to improvise and keep conversation going, but when Jeff hands him the drink, he goes is this the and then he takes a sip of it, and it's just a funny little bit that I noticed every time. That he tries to keep the scene going, but clearly they weren't equipped to do that for this episode.
Yeah.
I want to bring up, because something that Community said last week stuck with me about how the whole Annie revelation about Cornwallis in the puppet episode undercuts why she's so worried here about the valedictorian thing. I don't think that's true at all, because I think especially if she's trying to become the valedictorian and she's going to do poorly on a test, that she'd be willing to do some shady stuff to make sure that she keeps her stuff going.
I took that as him saying that kind of the other way around, that because she doesn't have to worry about it because he can just keep rubbing her feet, then she wouldn't have to go through all this to get a better grade. She would just take care of it herself.
Well, I think there is also that Annie feels pretty dirty about it after the fact and is this was a one-time thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't think it undercuts it that much. This is the part of the episode where Cornwallis kind of starts to be a shit stirrer, because he walks up to them and he's like, well, guess what, Winger? You succeeded, and now you've got an F. Oh,
well, to be fair, he did, Jeff was talking not great about him and called him a pompous Anglo ass and said that
Where's the lie?
Yeah, still.
Yeah, pretty disrespectful. He did just, They invited him to this party, and then he shows up, and they're all just walking around him and talking shit about him.
Yeah. Also, I like that Jeff is like, don't worry, we'll figure this out, and then leaves the professor alone, and he's like, we're going to have an aside,
It's really awkward. He's like, everybody, come here. If you were at a party, and it was everybody but this one person, let's come in the room and plot. But they have to do that, so what happens on the outside of the room can happen.
I like the line about if Scrooge McDuck were a real person, it'd be him. That's funny.
Pretty much they all come to this room to argue for a little bit. There's nothing really in this scene. Then they hear Cornwallis start yelling, and they come back in, and Cornwallis has been tied up. And gosh, I get what they're going for here, kind of. It's such a shitty tied up job. Cornwallis could get the out. He obviously ends up being the person who did this, but I don't believe at all that he's upset or trying to get out of this restraint in this moment. It's very cheesy, and it very much feels of an episode of Community that's trying to be this sophisticated walk and talk kind of episode.
Yeah,
it feels very cheesy and out of a lesser show that would do this oh no, while we were all in the other room, who tied him up? How are we ever gonna find? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, and here's what surprises me, that all of the study group immediately go along with just keeping him hostage until he improves their grade.
Yeah, nobody's clearly something has happened. let's just let this guy go, and maybe he'll help them out for having helped him out because Chang is deranged. There's never, ever in this entire episode a conversation of like, well, should we just let him go?
Yeah.
So yeah, now they're blackmailing him to get a higher grade, and they all feel real cutesy about themselves.
Also, when he says, I'll call the police, his arm is moving very freely around.
Yeah, he barely looks tied up at all. He's not. He could stand up and walk away with that restraint. His legs aren't restrained. He'd just have the chair connected to him.
I also am not a huge fan of the runner of them saying they're going to, like, lie to the cops and saying he was trying to, like, sexually assault them or at least get some sort of inappropriate with them. That's not good.
You said you liked the bit where Annie's like, or someone said it, maybe it wasn't you, but that you were going to come after me or Britta, and then Shirley's upset, so she goes, or Shirley, who you're frightened of sexually, or whatever the exact line is.
Yeah, I think Tim Tam put that as a...
I don't like that runner because it's one of those things of Community being like, we know we have a problem with how we write Shirley. We're not going to write her better. We're just going to make jokes about shouldn't we write Shirley better? That's what that feels like to me.
Mm-hmm.
But then they use it again a little bit later with the Annie Shirley thing, and I don't mind that as much. But this was instead of just never letting Shirley be a sexual object and then making a joke about it, why don't they just let her be a sexual object for a change? Mm-hmm. Cornwallis could have been really into Shirley. That would have been fun.
I think it would have been really funny if he wasn't into Annie and was into Shirley.
I feel like it's because the writers and stuff are really into Annie and Britta, and they don't think of Shirley that way, so no one in the universe of the show does. But that's just my thing. Can you explain, is there a Die Hard scene, the Abed showing off his foot? His
John
toes?
McClane, like, takes off his shoes. That's the...
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because earlier
he's like,
that's what Troy wanted to get him as a present.
Yeah, because there's like it is on his foot for a while, like when you think about it, but he like takes off his shoe and like wiggles his toes like that because he's gonna be sneaking around in the air vents or wherever.
I think it does this episode a huge disservice that now we're supposed to be under this high stress scenario where they've kidnapped their professor and they have to figure a way out of it. But then the episode still just continues to be them all sitting around and talking. They're just all sitting on couches. They're having like conversations that are supposed to sound like they're talking. What's the word I'm looking for? Like they're having these faux psychology conversations that are supposed to sound like they're getting deep, but really don't.
They're really
just kind
not.
of fill time to get to the next plot beat. Exactly like how Abed said, let's just wait here till the professor shows up. I don't know. It's boring is what it is. I think if this isn't the episodes of Community that I think are the worst, certainly are not boring. They're incredibly watchable. I might like other episodes less than this one, but I do not know if there is a slower, more boring episode in the entire series.
It's true.
I don't think there is.
I wouldn't be surprised, because at least the ones that aren't good, they tried to do something that someone thought was funny.
Yeah.
This one, it's truly just talking and not real conflict.
Can you imagine, though? I can see a version of this episode that turns Jeff's apartment into this, like, situation room.
Yeah.
And where it's, like, a lot of pressure, and it's, like, a crime scene, and they're all deciding, like, well, we have to go out and get this to do this, but it'll look bad. Where you know, it could be, like, a murder scene, like a crime thing, where they're trying to make all these decisions. They could have even done more with the dean being next door and, like, trying to keep him away from the situation, but instead they like drop him being tied up pretty fast.
Well, here's my thing. If the paper is on the history of a war, why not actually just do a war that you could reference in some sort of way and have that kind of story play out here? Then at the end, the teacher's like, well done, you do understand it, you get an A. And that still wouldn't have been great, but I would have at least understood why they were doing what they were doing.
I guess, yeah. I don't know, just for an episode where the study group kidnaps someone, there just isn't a lot of fever. There isn't a lot of, like, electricity. There should be. They should be scared as shit.
Yeah.
They should be, like, they've committed a crime. It just it's another thing where, lately, seasons 3 and 4, it's like the study group can do and get away with anything. Mm-hmm. And then next week it won't be a problem. And now the characters behave as if that's the world that they live in. There is no fear of being found out. There is no fear of we're still in this guy's class and we've just kidnapped him. Now it kind of works out in their favor because he like planned it all. He is the weirdo that did all this. But the study group doesn't know that at this point. They should be scared as shit.
Yep. I do not like when he's talking about Abed and is like, well, because of your impairment, they'll forgive you anyway.
Oh my god. So now it's like the professor is going to
Shirley
play
does
like...
say, why don't we just let him go? So we can just open up gifts and have Christmas.
Which they end up doing. Mm-hmm. So the professor is going to like play mind games on them, and he's like acting like he's got all of this dirt on the study group that'll make them have to betray each other. This is, and seeing it from the perspective of the professor like decided he was gonna just do this is weird.
Well, I don't think the professor actually tied himself up. I think Kevin still did that trying to help. He just didn't get out of it. He acted
is
like
that
he was
what
tied
it
up.
is? I think
yeah,
I
that's
sort
what
of
it
thought
is.
he tied himself up.
No,
and then Kevin was like,
did it.
I did. We missed it, but when they walk out and he is tied up, and Kevin's like, "Do you guys want me to kill him?" That's pretty funny. But the professor is like, "Oh, I'm a sad piece of shit." Mm-hmm. And I'll just let this happen.
I think that the allusions, like, to the study group being like Rome is not accurate at all. I think that was a big reach.
Again, it's not like, it's like that faux deep conversation where it's just him saying history stuff because he's a history teacher and not really a lot of stuff that connects to the characters or the situation.
He literally said, I'm trying to teach you history. How are you trying to teach them history? You literally gave them a grade and then lowered that grade because they said something rude about you. Yeah. And a lot of this doesn't track for me.
The professor makes it about like the romantic entanglements of the show, which is the most not at all on the nose they've ever been, about just like talking about who is googly eyeing who.
Yeah.
And the little disagreement of like Britta saying that she and Jeff used to date when Jeff doesn't see it that way, when it was never presented as them dating each other.
And I don't think Britta ever saw it that way, but I also think it's shitty for Jeff to say, and what we did wasn't dating. That's a little rude. This is funny, though.
The heat starts to brew. Troy does get a nice runner about that. There's no heat. Donald has felt more like Troy the last couple episodes.
Yeah, he has.
He feels like Troy this episode. He doesn't.
He
get
was
as
really
much
funny this episode.
Funny stuff as he usually does, but he feels more committed.
Mm-hmm. He knows my name. I also love how Abed is aware of how like dumb this whole thing is. So he's just eating popcorn. He's like not worried about the exam at all. He's like, well, this is entertaining to watch play out, I guess, because someone's tied up and kidnapped. So close enough to Die Hard.
On the commentary, which I thought was a nice little touch, that they made sure that Abed was gone for a long enough period of time to heat and put together popcorn. Mm-hmm. So he's gone for like a minute and a half or something. Nice. Because that's how long it would take. I like that they thought about stuff like that when putting the episode together. Yeah, Cornwallis is just a total ham in this episode. He could not be more begging for everyone's attention. He's like, everybody look at me and like me. I'm smart. You know, he's a whiny little baby for seeing it from the perspective that he is doing all this on purpose.
Mm-hmm. I think it is really funny when they're trying to figure out who like is on the track to be valedictorian, and Troy's like, is it me?
Versus Annie. Yeah, I like Troy's moment there. And I do like that this is a good way to call out the way that they underutilize Shirley versus the like sexual thing. When Annie literally, Shirley is so smart.
Yeah.
Why would she not be?
Annie and Shirley, though, have always had this little underlying beef where they don't say
take
nice
each
things
other
to
seriously.
Each other. Yeah.
I wish they would have done more with it because it is very interesting.
Mm-hmm. And it's throughout the entire show.
I know, and it's very small, but it's definitely there. You're right. Every time they've been put together, like when they're like good cop, bad cop together, and they fight over who gets to be the badass and stuff like that. That's a good observation, and I wish they would have had more time to develop something out of that.
Well, and I don't think it was a lack of time. I think it was a lack of desire or interest in doing anything.
Yeah, I think it's something that we pick up on that might be more a product of what they put together than like a direct decision that they made. But yeah, good for Shirley. She deserves to be the valedictorian as much as Annie does.
Yeah. Well, maybe more if Annie's getting her grades by letting her professors rub her feet.
That's true. Allison Brie is pretty good in this episode.
Yeah.
Annie gets to go through, Annie goes through a lot of the typical Annie getting upset or getting invested in something way, but there's never that super cringy moment of her, banging on the table and whang, that kind of thing, which makes me really like her. I understand that Annie is the type of person that takes this type of thing very, very seriously, and the serious she takes it isn't played for laughs, really. I buy her in this episode quite a bit. But for real, this act of the episode is the study group sitting in the same area and fighting back and forth, but there's just no dramatic tension in a situation that should be nothing but.
Because none of the things that Cornwallis is saying to try and get them to turn against each other is accurate. He's like, well, Annie, none of them support you. They all hate you. That's clearly not true.
He's like, I've got so much shit on you guys. And then they're like, no, you don't. And he's like, yes, I do. Here it is. And they're like, we already know that.
Yeah. He's like, I've got one more bullet. Did you know that the reason you got a bad grade was Jeff? And Jeff's like, yeah, it was me. No, you guys all worked hard. I just kind of blew through it, and everyone's like, okay. Except Annie punches him.
Which is understandable, because Jeff was the figurehead. It gets them to argue with each other. It does kind of work. And then that shot of Cornwallis just be like, this is silly. And then the doorbell rings. And this I thought would be interesting because it's the dean on the other end of the door. I thought it would introduce this whole thing of them trying to not let the dean see that Cornwallis is tied up. They should have made that the tension, but instead it just then it becomes them sitting around and talking again about who let him go.
I did forget, there is one funny bit in a second.
Okay.
So after the dean comes in, obviously it's funny lines.
I like his, I was going to spend time with my two irresistible lady friends, Rizzoli and Isles. That's a funny line.
Okay, just Abed, this whole
blast at the party.
Next sequence is really funny. The kind of looks on his face like, uh-oh. And then when the dean leaves and they're like, where's Cornwallis? And then when they finally see him and everyone screams, Abed just goes, ah! And it's really funny.
It's very Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Who is the Benedict Arnold? Again, they're, like I said, they're just going to sit around and talk again. Nobody's
he's literally
running to
sitting
do
down
anything.
with a glass of
Nobody's
scotch.
Doing little stuff. What is it? Remedial chaos theory all taking place in one apartment. This is not.
Yeah.
Where everybody's in a different room doing their own thing and it's all connected with what everybody else is doing. This episode does not have any of that.
No. Zach, I have to say.
Okay.
Earlier, I kind of was taken aback when you said this was one of the worst episodes of season 4. It truly is one of the most boring. Yeah.
But it's one of the worst in such a weird way because I think we think of season 4 being offensively bad. The characters not acting like themselves, the plots being so half-baked, the jokes being unfunny. That's not what makes this episode bad.
No.
It's written competently. The characters seem like themselves. In fact, like I said, people like Troy feel more like themselves than usual.
Yeah.
It's just boring. And they just sit down the whole time and talk and talk and talk. And
the whole episode just feels like a chore for...
And it's not for everyone. It was obviously a chore for them to make because they gave up on what they wanted to do with it right away. That was this episode could have at least been the one-shot episode. And it's not even that. It's the episode where they gave up on doing a one-shot episode. And there are plenty of situations that they bring up that should be tense, but there's no tension at all. They kidnap a man.
Yeah.
And the rest of the episode isn't going to save it. All there is left is for Jeff to make everyone smile with the speech, the professor to decide, you guys are right, A+, I'm proud of you, and then for them to open presents and pet kitties and stuff.
Yeah.
So they tie him up again. He is rubbing in Jeff's face that maybe he let Cornwallis out. Cornwallis is just like, everybody look at me, solve my puzzles, everybody be interested in me. So
he's
Jeff
like
is
if
like,
the
I'll tie you
Riddler
up
wasn't
again.
a supervillain but just a guy.
Just an old pervert.
Yeah. Because he doesn't really have any actual riddles. Like, it's not...
He's like, answer me these riddles 3. Annie, everybody hates you. Yes?
I do think it's funny that Kevin calls Shirley Milady when he gives her the thing.
Milady. I also like that they just tie him up and start hugging and opening
Yeah, they're
presents
like,
and
everything's
having a good
fine. This
time.
guy's just being held captive. It's
And
okay.
then what is funny in a second, even though I wanted the dean being around the corner to be more of a tension, when he shows up and is not at all put off by the professors there tied up.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny. Yeah, they ask Chang, who has badly wrapped these presents, to explain how he ties the knot, which makes it clear there's no way he could have tied the knot that put Cornwallis up in the chair. What?
Also, can you pause for 1 second,
Yeah,
Zach?
sure. So
I
you're
have a
wrong.
big issue.
You're wrong. You say that Kevin did tie Cornwallis up. No, he didn't, or he did, but
He
was
did,
just
but he doesn't
never
know how to
tied
tie
up and-
knots.
He just
Yes,
was never
that's
tied
the-
in a way that he couldn't.
That's
get
the plot of the
up.
episode.
Okay, Steven.
But something that also really doesn't work for me, because Jeff is the one who untied Cornwallis from...
Yes.
Jeff, first of all, would have known it wasn't a real knot, Vin. Also, how did Jeff untie him when he was right next to the door?
Jeff didn't untie and let
Jeff
Cornwallis
says,
out.
it was me, and now I'm going to lose my A by tying you back up again. He only had an A because he untied Cornwallis.
Huh. I was thinking that Cornwallis, because he's a cheeky little bitch, let himself out to stir the pot.
Well, that's what it seems like, but Jeff said, fine, I'll admit it, it was me, and now I'm going to lose my A.
Okay, I feel like they're writing the episode. They're like, this isn't going anywhere. We need like 6 reveals. Blam, here's a reveal. Jeff is really gay, and Pierce has been dead for 6 seasons. You know what I mean? They're like, let's just throw a bunch
Yeah.
of shit, and none of it sticks. And then they try to turn it around to make everyone feel bad for Cornwallis.
It
And
doesn't work.
Malcolm McDowell, who had eye surgery and had to wear these glasses the whole time, is like, this is the moment I take off the glasses. Because it is. He's like,
Yeah.
my daughter isn't in town. And no, you don't feel anything about him. You don't feel anything about anything in this episode. And we care about these characters so much. You know, it would be easy to make us feel all warm and sweet at the end of even a half-assed episode of Community. But this is just... It's not a good one, is it? And you know, I don't know that I'll put this as the worst episode of Season 4. I don't think it is.
No.
But I do think that it is the episode of the season that I will be fine to never see again.
Yeah.
Now they're still just sitting around arguing about the grade. There's no stakes. They get an A, they get the grade. He
No, they get a
smiles and
C+.
says Merry Christmas. Well, they get to pass. They get a little bit better.
But
they nudged it
Still,
up a half
Annie
grade.
and Shirley might be f***ed in the valedictorian thing.
Yeah. And then, but it doesn't matter. They all got each other presents, and we get to see all these really generic, non-copyright presents that they've gotten for each other. Like Shirley gets the Brownie Bible, and oh, ha ha ha, Jeff, everyone got him a Greendale sweater, and he throws them all away. It's pretty lame. It feels like a dumber show's Christmas episode. And we all learn a really important lesson that giving gifts isn't about obligation, it's about love. And
Yeah.
Chang, like all of us, I gotta drop a deuce. That's how I feel after this. And then I forgot about this. The Chang on the phone, we've gotten this once before this season. It's just because we're getting closer to the end. They're trying to build up a big Chang thing. I don't remember how the Changnesia thing ends. I don't think it's in anything that big.
No.
But this
Not
is the
that
end
I
of the
remember.
episode. This is how it ends, right?
Yep.
He's like, they're not
Well,
expelled. I'll have to
almost, yeah.
try something else. That's it before the end tag, right?
Mhm.
What a dumb ending. Then the end
Which
tag...
I forgot
Go
is
ahead.
an in tag because it's taking place in the same room the whole episode did, so it just feels like more of the episode.
And it kind of is, because the credits start rolling once, like, the Darkest Timeline
Yeah.
thing. The Dean shows up and brought everyone kittens.
Yep.
And so they all pet
They're
kittens.
cute,
They're
I
very
guess,
cute
but
kittens.
I don't know.
They're very, very cute kittens. But what?
Yeah, don't give people
Something
living
interesting?
things.
That is not Shirley. It's very clearly a body double. Apparently, Yvette is super allergic to cats and had to leave
That's
like hours
funny.
before they could even have the cats out there. So you just see this one pan shot, and it's so not Yvette.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a mannequin that's not even moving.
It's just a wig on a mop.
So things being so nice, which really, what? nice Christmas. Here's kittens. It's such a weird, dumb, unearned happy ending. It makes Abed wonder what's in the darkest timeline, and we get a little flash forward to the darkest timeline where Jeff is a lawyer for Annie, who's in like a Hannibal Lecter kind of get up, and he's getting her released from the Greendale insane asylum so they can wreak havoc and be in love with each other. I don't know. I'm over the darkest timeline at this point, but my main issue is because they eventually let it bleed into the real world, which I think was a huge mistake. And this kind of starts that because they're like, let's go find the prime timeline. And then they kiss. That Jeff, I wish you were even younger line, also not good.
Yikes.
Pretty yikes.
Because the thing is, like, Dark Timeline Jeff started out as just Jeff. He has lost his arm, so...
So what we're learning is that Jeff was always a pedophile.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the end of the episode. Yeah, it's not a good one. It's not a good one. I don't feel great about this episode. It's boring. It's not very funny. It's the worst Christmas episode they did. It might be the worst holiday episode they ever did. And it's not even so bad that it's like, can you believe this episode? Like how History 101 is. It's just so bad that it makes me feel absolutely nothing, which is even worse. What about you? Any last thoughts as we put this one to bed?
Not great.
Yeah.
Not a big fan. Didn't really enjoy the episode. Like, it's not bad enough to be comical.
And it's not funny either. It's not comical in any way, really.
Yeah.
Too bad. This one's a stinker. Too bad.
All right, but in it,
do you have a MVP? Was it hard for you to pick an MVP in this one?
I honestly am having a hard time with it.
Sure.
I don't think anybody like is offensively bad in this episode.
Sure.
And I think there are good performances in it, but I don't necessarily like a lot of what Jeff says and does.
Yeah.
I don't like all of Annie's angle.
Yeah.
Britta and Troy have some funny lines, Troy specifically, but they're pretty
not a big part at
inconsequential.
all. Yeah.
Shirley doesn't play a big role. Which leaves me only a few choices.
Okay.
Go
ahead. Just do it. Man, it's tough for you, huh?
I've never had this much trouble picking one. I am gonna go with Abed as my MVP because he had very little to do with what was going on, but I enjoyed his runner throughout the whole episode.
Whoa.
I know it's a cop out.
Yeah.
I'm aware of it.
But it's just not a good episode. You can't give it to the person who did the most in an episode that you don't like.
Exactly.
Because of what they're doing. Okay, I'm going to give a couple honorable mentions. I think Professor Cornwallis, don't like the character, but I think Malcolm McDowell has a decent episode here. It's the most they've ever let one of those teachers do, and I don't hate that they do that. Also, I'll give an MVP honorable mention to Jeff, who I think does fairly well in the episode. My MVP is going to be Annie this week because I buy her motivations and she doesn't annoy me in ways that she has in other episodes. I think they use Annie fine here, and I think Allison does a slightly better than usual job in this episode, and she always does a good job. But no, this episode doesn't make me feel a lot. I feel pretty empty. Do you feel pretty empty? I feel pretty sad and empty after going through this one.
Well, are you sad and empty? The perfect thing for you is a big old skewer full of Actrivia's slightly damp rope.
Because then you'll be feeling full and empty of vitamin C.
I am contractually obligated to specify that I'm saying Actrivia yogurt, no T at the end. If I call it yogurt,
product,
they are liable for several things they do not want to be.
Yeah.
So go in and lick some yogurt.
Yeah, definitely don't put a spoon on it.
Please don't.
And that's the episode this week, guys. Sorry that this is kind of a bummer if we're leaving bummed out, but whatever. I love doing the podcast, and it's fun to talk about ones that we don't like just as much as ones that we do like.
You know, I think I just don't want to be here anymore.
Steven, anything else you got to say to the people as we wrap this up?
You know, if they want to find us somewhere, Zach, there are places they can find us.
Well, where?
Well, one of those places is on the Twitter.
Okay.
You can go over and find us over under the username at You Can't Disapod. We're also on Instagram under the name Can't Disappoint Podcast. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook under the whole name of the show, You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
Guys, don't forget about that Patreon. It is loaded right now with You Can't Diss a Pre-Show every week, Brokeback Bebop every week, this podcast early every week. Patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. Support starts at $5 for all that free content, or not free, I guess you're paying for it. And $10 and up gets you shouted out on the show. It gets you community postcards from us, all kinds of fun stuff. Go check out the Patreon. I'm sure there will be a reward that you're just over the moon about.
Over the moon. And...
Next week, we're talking about Basic Human Anatomy. It is an episode that I am pretty excited to watch again and to talk about. So send us in your episode MVP, your favorite funny moment, and some trivia to can'tdisappointpodcast@gmail.com. And I think that's it. I think we're ready to wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah.
From inside the Dreamatorium, Black Lives Matter, I'm Zach.
I'm Steven.
And let's go tie each other up, buddy.
Hey, yo.
All right, we'll see everyone next week. Have a lovely week. Stay warm. Stay out of the snow. Goodbye.
Yeah, stay safe. And don't drive while tied up.
Yeah. Yeah, please don't. Kind of glad that one's over.